Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. We are playing with the Hero Arts May kit. This is a crafty lover's kit, and I think a staple if you're a crafter to have in your stash. So I'm just showing you real quick what's in the kit. There's a few embellishment items, and then this awesome stamp set with coordinating dies. And you also get 3 additional dies as well. So I'm going to start off by using this really fun paper. I try to use the paper in every kit for a card. Otherwise it just sits on my shelf and is hidden forever. So I'm going to cut that down with some rectangle dies. Now here I wanted to show you real quick, this is how I store my cardstock. So this is the colored cardstock pieces that I have. It's kind of like a scraps way to store my stuff. And I'm going to show you in the future a couple other ways, like this. This is where I keep specialty papers. So I cut them down in A2 size and then I just put them in little baggies and label them. This way I can keep all my scraps in one place. This is my mirror cardstock from Tonic and I love this. I use it 2 different mirror cardstocks in this video. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the title of my video was when we get to coloring, because that's when we'll have some time to slow down and do that. Here I am stamping out all of the sentiments in the kit. So I figured when you're making multiple cards, especially when you're making multiple different cards, some of the things for time purposes need to be the same. This is all me talking. You can, obviously, we all do what we feel comfortable doing. But for me, if I'm going to do 10 different cards, then it's, I think for me to be able to get through that and be able to do it in a timely fashion, I like to have the sentiments, and I like to use all the sentiments because normally they're all pretty good and they coordinate with the kit. And so that's why I heat emboss them in white on black cardstock and then just cut them up. Some have flag ends and some don't, most don't. And then I'm just kind of cutting around the sentiment. So this first card here, this was the heart die with the pins, the needle pins for knitting. I guess they're called knitting pins. Knitting needles. We'll get the right combo. Knitting needles. Oh, my mother would be so disappointed. And so I'm just going to place that on top of that pattern paper. And then you can see what I'm doing here, just gluing things together. Now, I did this card, and then I did the next card that we're going to do. And I had to walk away from the kit. I just was disappointed in what I was making. I wasn't inspired. I don't know. It wasn't the kit's fault. The kit has lots of great stuff. But the images, I don't know what it was. I think it was just one of those times where I lost my mojo. I wasn't creating anything else in the interim. I walked away from the craft table pretty much for 3 days, 2 or 3 days, hoping that it would come back. And so I'll get to that more in just a second. Right here, I'm using my Tim Holtz Stampin' Platform, and I'm just trying to get this kind of like a haphazard pattern type thing. So I get the 3 biggest images, and then I'm taking these little ones like the safety pin and buttons, and I'm just going to stamp those out. I'm going to color with Arteza colored pencils, which I think are of great quality and great price. I'm using gray cardstock here that I picked up from Michael's. And I know that we see colored pencils being used on craft cardstock a lot, but I'm not sure I see it on gray cardstock a lot, or other colors. And so I wanted to give it a try and just kind of give a softer palette in the background and then see how the colors popped on the gray. And I was extremely happy with the way that they just really came alive on the paper. So you can see me here, I'm just coloring through. I have 2 different color shades of the Artezas. So this 72 set pretty much comes with every color you would need, but in the beginning of this segment I pulled out some blender pencils that I got from Prismacolor because the Arteza set does not come with a blender pencil, and I find that to be extremely helpful. You don't have to have a blender pencil though. If you're going back and forth enough on your cardstock with your colored pencils, then you could probably get the blending you want from the different shades of pencils you're using. So a light, medium, dark, and you can just get that shading. So here's the finished piece. Now I will tell you, most of this card has made it into the blooper reel. That will be coming faster than I had hoped. I don't know what's happening to me, but yes, so that is in the future. So reason being, I made a couple mistakes on this card, and this is why I was saying after this card, I just walked away. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything with this kit, anything that I'm happy with. Okay, so this is now 2 or 3 days later. Look, even the lighting seems brighter. I'm getting my mojo back, but I'm not quite there yet. So what is one way that I get my mojo back, my crafty inspiration? Well, one way is I kind of let the images in the set do the talking. So what I mean by that is I stamp them out a bunch of times on pretty much a humongous piece of paper all over every corner. So covered the sheet. And then I just cut that down and I pulled out some Arteza alcohol markers, which I'm really impressed with these markers. I think they're really good. I think they need a little bit, if you watched my review video, a little bit of a wider variety in the browns and grays, which I believe are coming. But I'm really happy with the markers themselves. They're very smooth and easy to color with. I'm using right here some Neenah 80-pound cardstock. So, or maybe this is 110. I think this is 110. So as I'm coloring here, I'm not going to show you a whole lot of coloring. I just show you this one panel. And in fact, my coloring got better as time went on. So you'll see as we go through the process of the video, some of those images. So, okay, so how do I get my mojo back? Well, I stamp them out, I start coloring them, and then if you're like me, you have a lot of backgrounds in your stash that you kind of make and then just put off to the side. So what I decided to do for the rest of these cards is stop trying to create something from the beginning of time in my head. I wanted to use what I was given with the images and then also the backgrounds that I had in my stash, which were plentiful, let me tell you. And I'll show you in just a minute. So once I pulled out those backgrounds, I let the images and the colors of the image, and I let the backgrounds and the types of backgrounds that I had inspire me. That was one way to knock me out of my funk. Because if I had nothing in front of me, I felt like when I had nothing in front of me, I felt a block. I felt like I couldn't think of anything, not even just innovative. I couldn't think of anything. So I was just, the first two cards were simple and they're not terrible. I mean, it's a handmade card. I'm sure someone would love it, but it wasn't what I was wanting out of this kit. And so that really put me in just kind of a downer mood after those two cards. So anyway, moving forward, this is what I did to get me kind of back into it and get me excited about it. So I had fun coloring, and even as I was coloring, I had no concepts in mind. I didn't have anything that I was designing in my brain. I just colored and then die cut. And ooh, child, let me tell you the die cutting. The die cutting was for real. It took me forever. It took me so long to die cut all these because they're all such little skinny, not all, but a lot of little skinny images in there. But here we go. Alas, in all its glory, all my pieces die cut. So I kept them in this little tiny tin here. But I will tell you, I used to keep my powder bag in this little, not tin, the little glass porcelain thing. But now this is where I keep my powder bag. And do you know who made this for me? That's right, AJ did. They made it at school, and it is my favorite thing in my craft room now, and it holds my powder bag perfectly. And when I saw it, I said, I know just what's going to go in that. So I'm sorry, folks. He does not have a website. He cannot reproduce these little holders. I wish he could because they're adorable. Anyway, all right, so here's my backgrounds, and this is what I was telling you. So I saw these backgrounds, and then I was just slapped in the face out of my funk because I was like, yes, Mary, get to work because there's enough there to keep going. So I pulled out my first background that I did. I used Neat and Tangled's Heart Duo stencils for that background up there. And then I put this on Instagram if you follow me, but I wanted to put my craft supplies in the clouds because A, I'm on cloud 9 when I craft, and B, it's my heavenly place. So it just was the perfect match. So I decided to put my card together. Now I'm using vellum, and that's going to soften up a little bit of that background so I can put my images on the front and make them stand out even more. So you can kind of see how that vellum does it. So I'm popping up some, I'm laying flat some, and I'm really just kind of picking ones that I colored that complement the card itself. But I will tell you, I couldn't decide if I wanted gray clouds or white clouds on this one. That was a little bit of a struggle for me to pick. I wasn't quite sure. So for the second card, I'm going to do the gray clouds, and I'm going to get the best of both worlds. I got this little idea here for the glue from Scrappina Creations, Jen, and I saw her do this on a card a while ago, actually, and I just loved it. And you can't really use real glue because most real glue dries clear. So I just used the Nuvo drops in the white. And so it's just a little added touch there from the glue. And let's face it, we're all messy when we craft. So it was fitting. Here I decided to use the gray. Now on the gray, this is really helpful here because I can see where to put my tape runner on the vellum. And then the background was made with a Catherine Pooler stencil. And I love that, and I just used multiple oxide colors to get that look. I'm going to trim that down, and then I'm going to start putting my pieces in on this card. So a lot of this video is sped up because I like you to see the process, but I don't need to go in regular speed and slow it down because, you know, that's just kind of dreadful. So a lot of it is sped up throughout the video, and also amazingly, I was able to get actually 11 cards in this video in 21 minutes. 21, well, probably 22 minutes. And so, yeah, that was a shocker to me because when I was editing the 3 hours of video content, I thought there's no way on this green earth that I'm going to be able to get this under 40 minutes. And I did by using the power of speed up. Okay, so here is my shimmer spray. I had to slow that down for you because I don't know how that popped out of my hand like that, but it flew right across my craft desk. It was like, I'm ready. Put me in, coach. All right, so here we go. I am spritzing that. I'm going to heat set it, and then you can see all that beautiful sparkle right there. So with this background, I really wish I could tell you how I made it. I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's some sort of watercoloring. And I thought about cutting it down, but I really like that, you know, organic edge on around the colors. So I just kept it, and we're going to make it a full A2 size. Now you can see I put my little paintbrush through my palette there and just glued it on the back side of it. And then I took one of the watercolor tubes and the little cap and just popped that up in the front. And so you can see here I used black on this watercolor tube kind of to mimic my Arteza watercolor tubes, and then I'm just adding the sentiment and a little bit of Nuvo glaze to brighten up and shine up those paints. And so that's on the tube and then the paints on the palette. And so that will finish that card. Okay, so we are moving on to my next background here, Distress Oxides, no doubt, with a little bit of silver embossing powder sprinkled on it. And I decided to go monochromatic with this one and the next card. And so I'm just going to put my 3 glue bottles, which I did not anticipate using 3 glue bottles in a card. So as I started this process, I became more and more inspired by the backgrounds and the cut and colored images. And so the ideas just kept flowing to me. So that was really... it made me feel really good to kind of have that coming back. And I know I said I had 3 hours of content, and I did. I might have even had 3.5, but most of that went by really fast, and I wasn't struggling like I was in the beginning, because there's nothing worse than sitting down in your happy place and just feeling like you want to pull out your eyebrows. So it was a happy place this time, which was great. I'm using some press and seal because I really liked the way I laid those out and I didn't want to have to do it again. And so I put foam tape on the back and then placed them on my card as well as my sentiment here. And as you can see, this is another monochromatic card. This is all the ones that I colored up in green. And that's how I decided to do that card. And I backed both of those cards with a black matte. All right, on this one, this is Distress Oxide on watercolor cardstock. It's black soot, hickory smoke, and ice spruce. And it's kind of an ombre type of look. Spritzed with water, and I want this card to really scream from have the color screaming through it right here. So I made that almost like a wave or something like that coming out of it. And I'm going to cut it down with a Lawn Fawn rectangle stitch die so that I can get this all lined up perfectly. Had a little bit of a white spot on my Yupo paper here with my alcohol inks, so I covered that up with an alcohol marker. It was perfect. And then I'm going to glue this on the back. So now when I flip it over, you can see that we have that just piece of color like shooting up through it. And then we have our little images there kind of sitting there at the foundation of it. Then I'm going to cover that with some Nuvo glaze as well. All right, so we're moving on to the next one. This one is going to be, you saw me use my anti-static powder tool. This is an old Hero Arts stencil, and I'm going to put, and the kit came with sticky ink, so I should have used it, I just didn't realize. But I'm using Versamark ink, and that's my little magnetic mat I got at the local craft store. Super helpful for stenciling. And I'm going to pour on that beautiful purple embossing powder that came with the kit. The anti-static powder tool was brilliant for this because this is darn near perfect where I put the ink and the powder. There's like no extra stray anything, so I was very happy about that. And that purple sparkle embossing powder is gorgeous. And it matches my new purple Tonic mirror cards. So here we go. I cut them down. I put them in a plastic baggie, and we are good to go. That's how I'm going to see them in the future. I'm going to cut out, again, this heart die, and we're going to use the outline too so that it comes out of the card. Now this card I'm working on is a little bit busy, but I thought it was a lot of fun. Really purple, really busy. But I am getting it ready. I have pulled out the string that that wraps around in your kit because I wanted to use it. I thought black and white twine goes with everything. And I kept this part in here, although sped up and cut down quite a bit because I was struggling with this a little bit longer than I'm showing you here. But my idea was to wrap the thread around the knitting needle and through that image so it looks just all intertwined and fun. So I'm able to secure my twine on the back of my card here with just some packaging tape. That part's easy. When I turn it over, my needle was getting all wonky on me, so I figured I better glue this down ASAP or I'm just going to have trouble. So that's what I did. I flipped it over, I glued it down using some art glitter glue, and then I took very, very tiny, just 3 very tiny pieces of foam tape. Because that twine is intertwined in there, I needed a little bit of, what am I trying to say, depth or height on that. So just really 3 tiny pieces of foam tape, 3 places on the heart. Okay. Then I was like, I want to make a pom-pom. How cute would that be to make a little pom-pom? But then I lost my confidence halfway through. So I can't do it. So I'm just going to make this really fun bow. So I have all of this twine wrapped around my finger, and then I have this really like puffy, lots of layered bow. That's what I'm calling it. It's my new invention. And I get that center straight, and then I kind of fluff it up a little bit and take a really thick glue dot, and I'm going to place that on the back, which is going to help me keep this situated on my card. And so I just put it there as an accent. Up close and personal, it looks a lot more like a bow, because right now, from where I'm sitting, it looks like a black and white twine blob. So I hope it does look like a bow, anyway, in my head. So then I'm going to put my sentiment down on there, and then I'm just going to glue it and back it on some black cardstock. This cardstock is from Michael's as well, the 110-pound version, I believe. And that's it. That's that card. So I thought that was a lot of fun. All right. So we are moving on to the next card. I'm cutting out this background that I had this is a watercolor background. And I'm using a heart die that I have in my stash, but I'm going to keep that piece for our last bonus card. And I am going to just make a shape card. So I do this by cutting out 2 pieces of Neenah 110 cardstock, yep. And I am going to then put those 2 pieces together, but I have to score the bottom one first. So I score it probably about maybe a quarter to a half inch in. And then because now it's bendable on the back, so I'm going to score that down. But you take your bone folder and press it down, and this way when you glue the tops together, right where they would match up, then the back will be able to bend easy for you. And I decided to use art glitter glue, but sticky tape is great. I would probably use something that you know is going to be really strong. Once it dries, this is really strong, and double-sided adhesive is great. And then I'm going to layer up that front piece that I cut out from the background, and then you can watch as I just put together the card basically with a bunch of images and popping up some, and it's just really easy to put that together. So at the end of the day, when I took a step back and looked at this process, this was important for me, even in my learning, for what is it that's going to help me get over that hump, that crafty hump. Because I really look forward to being in my craft space, and it's not often that I get into a rut. In fact, throughout the day, I'm daydreaming about how I can design cards and maybe something I see out in life and how that's an inspiration to me. But it could have been coupled with a couple stressful things I've been dealing with in life. It could have been the busyness of work or whatever it was, but something just kind of threw me off. And so now I know moving forward, if that happens to me again, then I can just kind of, take a holistic view at it and maybe just start doing something, and then creativity and inspiration may come back to me, which I'm hoping for. So this is the bonus final card here, just using that negative for my card of the heart. And I put the scissors there. It looked like it was cutting the paper, and then added a whole bunch of these other fun images. I have quite a few left over, so I can make a couple more cards if I want to. So that's good. And I have lots of backgrounds left over, so that's great. But that will do it for my 10+1 bonus card kit for the Hero Arts May kit, the Crafty Goodness Kit. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what we're calling it. So here are some still photos of the cards. This way you can kind of get a close-up look at each and every one of those, and they'll be in the order in which I did them throughout the video. So this video moved pretty quickly, and what I'm going to do is make sure my blog is updated. We have all these still photos over on my blog, so you can check that out. And while I have a couple seconds here, on the About Me section on my YouTube page, it is listed all of the areas where you can find me. There's email if you have questions. There's Instagram, which I'd love for you to follow me over on Instagram. I post a lot over there. I love to share with you, and then I love to see your projects as well. Facebook, I like to post a lot of great crafty deals as soon as I see them. Sometimes when I'm linking products for my card projects, I will see something that's like a super great deal and go post it there. But anyway, that's all in the About Me section on my page. And so you can head over there as well as my blog. And like I said, I'll make sure that these photos are ready to go for you to see. It's a lot easier to see the photos from the blog, I feel. So just wanted to make sure I shared that with you. I will link everything I used in this video in the description box below it. And I love to hear from you, you know that. So make sure to comment so we can chat it up in the comment section. And let me know if you have any questions. And you can also let me know how you get out of a crafty rut if you ever get in one. And what are your tips and tricks for us? So share with us so we can all learn. And I will see you all in the next video. Have a fantastic week. Bye-bye.